What's up, everybody? Welcome into week 5 of The Spread, NESN.com's football picks audio podcast. I am NESN.com's Mike Cole, joined as always by Ricky Doyle and Andre Cacciatorian, also of NESN.com fame. Gentlemen, how are we?
Excellent. How are you, Mike?
I'm very well.
Identify your voice.
Yes,
Identify your voice.
I am Andre Cacciatorian. This is my voice. Ricky speaks.
This is me.
Wow, I'm glad we really got that out of the way. Yep.
But no, I'm doing excellent things.
We could put some picture-in-picture on this week. Look.
Oh, you do?
Look,
is that actually? Oh, okay.
You try it.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, I don't really
we're trying it.
Yeah, whatever.
Maybe next week.
Whatever you want to do. It's your.
Yeah, that's
your world.
your area of expertise.
Yeah.
So.
We'll see. But if you can't see us, then this is Andre.
Nobody really cares. Anyway, as always, we're back to make our NFL against the spread picks. For those of you who don't know, and what is your deal, get with it. Join us more often. We will make 3 picks against the spread for the best 3 games of the week. Then we'll also get into our locks and upsets. As always, you can find the full slate of our picks at NESN.com/odds or NESN.com/sports-betting. Those go up sometime Thursday morning. So make sure to check those out. Speaking of the full picks, let's review our records from last week. Andre, why don't you help us out with that?
Week 4 results. I went 9-5-1. Mike and Ricky, you guys went 7-7-1. Overall, really good week for all of us.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I got very lucky with some of my picks, though. I always complain about how I
you did.
The covers.
Because I know I got some unlucky with some this week. Yeah.
The Lions ended up
covering.
Right,
that was a
The
dog.
Broncos ended up covering.
Yep.
You know, so I will take those gladly. I have a 2-game lead over all of you. In the overall standings, we were all tied last week, so now I have a 2-game lead over both of you guys. That's exciting. We're all doing well. This is great. Last week we were all 500. You guys are still 500.
Yeah.
I'm a little over 500 now.
That was a kick in the pants, that Lions game. Man, that looks like such a good pick. Detroit, and then Zeke Elliott banged up.
Detroit
Lions
covered.
continue to stink. No, they didn't.
Yeah, 3-point cover.
They lost. They won
26-24, and they covered by 3 points. The Lions were.
Oh, I meant I had Dallas,
Yeah, cool.
so I got screwed on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I could have told you that. No, I'm just kidding.
That's true. All right. So we're in week 5, huh?
A lot of good games this week.
Yeah.
Well,
I like it though. Bengals, Dolphins. We're not going to talk about that unless it's one of your locks and upsets. But that's a good 3-1 matchup.
No, it's not.
Because one of those teams will be 4-1.
It's not. Yes, but who cares?
I guarantee that'll be a tie.
I don't care. Like if I'm overreacting, the Dolphins with the disgusting display of football they showed last week at Gillette Stadium makes me feel like a real dummy for picking them last week. That was with the points, and I even thought that maybe there's a chance they could upset the Patriots. They looked horrible.
Oh God.
So them playing the Bengals, who have their own set of issues, doesn't interest me at all.
I don't know. I feel like that's more of Patriots releasing all their frustration on the Dolphins.
Yeah, no, it was, sure. How bad is the AFC though?
I think it's pretty good. You got some good teams there.
The AFC East.
It's not a lock.
The AFC stinks.
I sit there and I
because like how good are the Bengals? And they're
I came out of that Dolphins Patriots game thinking like why did we pick the Dolphins?
I know. But
the AFC East is
Chiefs are
always
good.
the great equalizer in terms of figuring out getting the Patriots back on track.
Well, no, in terms of the Dolphins though, like they didn't do anything I expected them to do. And maybe I'm not as smart as I fancy myself, but like nothing. The game plan was just dead on arrival.
And I don't even think. I mean, I don't think the Patriots looked that good.
I agree 100%.
I didn't think they looked that good. Like they were fine.
Yeah.
But like they certainly. Yeah. It's not like they came out and they had this like well-oiled offense and were moving it up and down the field.
Can't you say the same thing about the entire
Brady
NFL except for
whatever.
the Rams? It's like the Rams and everyone else right now, basically.
Yeah.
We started off well last week. That was a good Thursday night game.
That was, yeah.
It was exciting.
I just think the ceiling's higher for most NFC teams. I don't know. Because I've just seen so many flaws with the AFC. I mean, we'll get into it as we go along, but like you want to talk about like the West, like the Chargers. Are we going to do the Chargers thing again? You're going to do the Chargers thing again.
They've lost to 2 really good teams.
They are jabronis
and the
when it comes to like just terrible clock management, terrible coaching. The kicking is still a disaster. It's the same old story.
So what do you think? This game right here, 2 best teams in the AFC?
Yeah, let's get jeez, I guess. I don't know. Kansas City and Jacksonville, I believe, is where you want to start. Is that what you're getting at? Yeah, sure. Let's get into that. Okay. Jacksonville at Kansas City. Chiefs currently sit as 3-point favorites after eking out a win Monday night. They got a short week, but they're heading home. Jags coming off of a pretty impressive win, I guess, against the Jets, a game that they should have won, a game that they won pretty handily. 55% of the bets coming in on Jacksonville. As always, most of our, if not all of our betting trends and such come from OddsShark. So big ups to OddsShark, for which we are climbing the Super Contest standings.
Trying.
That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, we're digging out of it.
After a 5-0 week. Let's get into this one. Jags, Chiefs. As I said, Chiefs favored by 3. Total set at 48.5 right now. Ricky, where do you fall in this one?
Yeah, we got the classic case of, the electrifying offense against the dominant defense. I mean, I'll admit, initially I looked at this and I thought with that Jacksonville defense I'd maybe lean towards taking the points here, but I do think that Kansas City offense, I think it's creative enough that they can cause some problems to kind of mitigate the talent that Jacksonville has on defense. I think we saw some of it in week 1 when the Jaguars played the Giants and they sort of are running some of these rub routes and these pick plays to get the ball to Odell Beckham in space. So I think maybe if you're the Chiefs, you kind of take a page out of that book. I mean, ultimately the Jaguars won that game, but they were also, like I said, facing the Giants, who don't quite have the offensive firepower that the Chiefs have. I'm factoring in this game being in Kansas City. Jaguars still a team that I think are capable of just kind of losing their mental, just losing their heads really at any point in the game. Ranked 31st in penalties per game so far this season. Dead last in penalty yards per game. You're going on the road in Kansas City. You could have some problems there. And also the Leonard Fournette injury. If he's not playing in this game, that kind of takes away Jacksonville's ability to capitalize on Kansas City's biggest weakness. So put it all together. I like the Chiefs even with even given the 3 points here.
Ricky, I agree with you. I'm going to take the Chiefs as well. I like that you mentioned that this game is in Arrowhead because Blake Bortles on the road is a completely different quarterback than he is at home. Since the start of last year, at home, 21 touchdowns, 7 picks, with 65% completion percentage. On the road, 7 touchdowns, 9 picks, with a 55% completion percentage. Whatever it is, he likes the Jacksonville Duval son, and now he's in Kansas City. And meanwhile, Pat Mahomes, the guy, I don't know if it's an Andy Reid thing or maybe it's an Alex Smith / Pat Mahomes thing, but neither of them turned the ball over. And Pat Mahomes has done a great job. The entire Chiefs team is just 1 turnover this year. Mahomes gets good protection. He's only sacked 5 times this year. So, and he's gone up against good pass rushers too, like the Chargers, Steelers, and Broncos. So I think he's going to have time to throw even against the Jaguars pass rush, which hasn't been as good as it was last year. And even if there is pressure on Mahomes, the guy we saw on Monday Night Football, escaping pressure, making plays, I like the Chiefs in this one. And the Jaguars have shown they can be very meh against in this season. Like that Titans game was, what the hell was that in week 3? What was it? And a 9-6 game, no touchdown. It's like, you don't know what you're going to get from the Jaguars. You know what you're going to get from the Chiefs, especially at home. I'll take the Chiefs.
I feel like Jalen Ramsey hasn't been that great this year either.
No.
I mean, he had a kind of a shaky week against the Jets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to buck the trend here. I'm going to go with I'll take the Jaguars. You go back to week 1, Blake Bortles, the numbers aren't great, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, when that pick he threw against the Giants was tipped. So maybe he turned the corner a little bit with that road thing. But for me, it comes down to more what the Chiefs haven't been able to do so far this season. Defensively, they continue to be somewhat of a mess. They
suck. I'll eventually say they suck defensively.
They're allowing more than 6.5 yards per play. That's 30th in the league. They allowed 136 yards rushing on just 20 carries this past Monday night. 1 o'clock in the afternoon game, the Atlanta Falcons head to Pittsburgh taking on the Steelers. Steelers currently sitting as 3-1 favorites in the league total. Sky high in this for 57.5 points.
I think when you look at the Falcons, you usually say that there were 2 losses to the Saints and Bengals, and a couple things went that way. Yeah. The Falcons, you can be great. I like the Falcons. Matt Ryan has done a great job protecting the football. Only 2 picks this season. They're getting points. They're explosive offense. Ben Roethlisberger is more mistake prone. I like the Falcons in this one. It's so hard to say who, like, these 2 teams are similar and like they've both made mistakes throughout the season. That's why their records are what they are. It's a must-win game. I know it's in Pittsburgh, but I'll go with Matt Ryan and the Falcons. I like the fact that Calvin Ridley has 6 touchdowns, Julio Jones has 0. That's telling me that everyone's putting focus on Julio Jones and Ridley's like thriving on this. Steelers defense, I don't know, like they give up a ton of points. Give me the Falcons. I think Julio Jones also breaks out in this one.
I think there is no way the Falcons secondary stops the playmakers of the Steelers.
I mean, there's that too. That's why it's so hard because you have
their injuries are. I mean, we've talked about it a few weeks here that they've lost all these guys: Ricardo Allen, Keanu Neal, best coverage linebacker Deion Jones. That's so much team speed you're losing, and you would hope that your cornerbacks would play a little better in that case. Yeah. And Ricardo Allen and Desmond Trufant look like crap against Cincinnati. I mean, you look at A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd, who's actually been a stud this year. Going off. John Ross had that long touchdown. So, I mean, there's still talent even with the injuries on this defense, but I just think there's such a trickle-down effect that it's hard for me to imagine that, especially with this game in Pittsburgh, that they're going to be able to slow down that offense. I mean, I think ultimately over the long run, the Steelers their offense is a little too one-dimensional right now, but
Big Ben's throwing the ball.
I don't think that hurts them all that much against this Falcons team, like it did last week against the Ravens team, where their secondary is one of their strengths and they can put pressure on the quarterback. I mean, the Falcons, they can't really generate much pressure, so I just don't think that Atlanta has the defensive capability right now to slow down that Pittsburgh offense.
Does Pittsburgh have the defensive capability to slow down the Atlanta offense?
I have more faith in that happening than the former.
To answer your question, I think no. I'm also taking the Falcons here. Just because I'm grabbing the points, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to look a lot like the game did last week for the Falcons playing at home against Cincinnati, where it was kind of last team wins. And if that's going to be the case, I'll just take my chances with the points. Where do you want to start here? I mean, it sounds like Devontae Freeman could be back this weekend.
That would be huge
for Atlanta.
That would be huge for Atlanta.
They must get Derek Shelby back on the defensive line, which is not as big of a return, but still, when you're as decimated with injuries as they are on the defensive side of the ball, you'll take anybody back you can get. I also thought this was kind of interesting. This is something that I continue to wonder more about as I start to dig in deeper with the stats. Is how do teams perform?
Break out the shovel.
How do teams perform after like big games, whether it's divisional games, whether it's primetime games? I came at you guys last week with that stat about the Steelers not playing very well after Monday night games, and that kind of played his way out Sunday night against Baltimore. This week I'm coming at you with a different one. Pittsburgh, this is just the last 2 seasons, so it's not a huge sample size. Pittsburgh is 1-3 overall, 0-4 against the spread in weeks following Baltimore matchups. I think that, but like
AFC North football, it's the lingering effects.
I think there's something to that. You get up for a big game. It's
violent games.
Yeah, exactly. It takes a lot out of you. I think there's something to be said for that. By the way, the only straight up win in that of those 4 games was they beat Cleveland in overtime in like week 16. So good for you. That was, I think, the game, but maybe there was nobody played in that game, so maybe it's a bad example. Whatever. Steelers also 0-6 against the spread in their last 6 home games as favorites. They have some issues of their own with injuries in the secondary. I don't know.
See, I'm always, when it comes to these trends, I'm always trying to pick out which ones. Do I put a lot of stock into that or whatever? What I do kind of is the Falcons' obvious issues against AFC teams. 0-7 against the spread in their last 7 games against AFC teams. That just shows me that they kind of, don't handle unfamiliarity that well. I don't know what the issue is there, but it seems like it's an unfamiliar opponent, I guess.
Or they're just overvalued.
And just 1-6 straight up as well. So,
I like everything you said, Mike.
Thanks.
It's such a hard game to pick. I don't know.
It's one of those things where, again, I talked last week about Pittsburgh inability to run the football.
Yeah.
So that's another thing too. If they're up, say they're up 10 late or something, or if they're up 8 or 9 late, you can't salt the game away. Maybe Atlanta scores this touchdown late to get it within the numbers.
Because Atlanta's not really good at stopping the run. So.
No, I know, but whatever.
Completely random, but what do you think happens with the Le'Veon Bell situation? I mean, now it sounds like
very bizarre.
Eyeing that he's coming back in week 7.
I thought it would be. Yeah, I thought it'd be more
after
likely.
The bye.
The fact that got out when it did is kind of weird. I thought they probably would have done everything they could to trade him, and now they're looking beyond the trade deadline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The timing is weird. So maybe it's just a smokescreen. I don't know.
I think he's gonna come back. I think he's gonna be really good down the stretch.
I think the Steelers will be a good second half team.
The timing of it too, also with the Earl Thomas injury too. It comes out a couple days after that. It's weird.
And this so much, obviously there's been so many layers to this whole thing with the offensive line kind of calling him out a little bit before the season and things like that. But he comes back, he plays well. I'll be forgiven.
Yeah, I guess so.
for at least a few games.
But it might be too late by the time he gets back. So
I also think that we talked about this a few weeks ago. The Shazier absence, it just keeps rearing its head over and over again. Like the Steelers' defense is not what it was before he got injured last year.
to Ricky's point though, like the Falcons are missing like 3 Shaziers.
They are, yeah.
I know.
No,
It's insane.
It'll be a high scoring game. That's one thing we can agree on.
I hate just like pinning things on injuries, but when you lose that amount, it's just in terms of pure volume amount of guys, but also the talent level and speed. I mean, I thought this season, like if the Falcons were going to get back to a legitimate Super Bowl contender, it was going to be more because of their defense. So I think we've seen I don't think their offense is at the level it was a couple of years ago. It was somewhere in the middle between last year and 2 years ago. But if that defense took a step forward, then that's when they, really could have made some noise. But obviously, things not going their way in that regard.
No. All right, let's go to this NFC matchup now.
Yeah, this is a nice rematch. NFC Championship game rematch. Also, we're going to stay in Philly, where the site of that massacre took place last winter. The Vikings are in town to take on the EAGLES Eagles, who are 3-point favorites at home. Two teams that high expectations entering the season, haven't really lived up to those expectations yet, especially Minnesota. And this is a huge game for the Vikings.
Yeah.
If they lose this game, again, I think the NFC North is kind of it's going to be a dogfight, but still, you don't want to fall too far behind, especially if we all believe in the Bears. This is an important game for the Vikings. Like I said, they're underdogs on the road at Philly. Ricky, who do you have in this one?
So usually I love taking the Vikings as an underdog, and we touched on it last week going into that game against the Rams. But to me, this boils down to a classic, and this is the one for Andre. They like battle in the trenches because this Vikings offensive line. You go back 2 weeks ago against Buffalo, not good there. Last Thursday, going up against the premier interior rusher and Aaron Donald, causing a lot of problems there. So now they're going up against perhaps the most talented defensive line, most talented front seven in the NFL. I could just see a whole bunch of problems there for Minnesota. Also, I just think that Philadelphia will be able to limit Minnesota's ability to run the ball. I mean, to this point, the Vikings haven't run the ball very well, and the Eagles have been as advertised on the defensive side. So I just think if that's the case and it gets into this situation where you're just forcing the Vikings to be one-dimensional, I mean, their receivers have played well. But there's still the question, can Kirk Cousins beat a winning team? Can he step up in a big game? And this is as big as it gets because the Eagles don't lose at home. So I just think there's just a lot of things pointing in the Eagles' favor that I'm okay with laying the 3 points there, and I'll take the home team. Take Philly.
What did I just talk about in the Steelers-Falcons breakdown analysis? Ben Roethlisberger throwing the ball a lot this year. He's second in pass attempts, Ben Roethlisberger is. Guess who's first?
Do we have to?
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, 189 pass attempts. Too much pressure on him. You talked about the Vikings' inability to run the ball. I'm sick of this Dalvin Cook talk. Every fantasy owner talks about, I got Dalvin Cook in the first round. I'm going to win my league. This is what Dalvin Cook has done this year. He started off the season with a 40-yard performance against the San Francisco 49ers, and then a 38-yard performance, and then a 20-yard performance last week against the Rams. He stinks, averaging 2.7 yards per carry. The Vikings' running attack stinks, 3.5 yards per carry. Eagles' rush defense, you talked about their front seven, is excellent, third best in the league. They allow 3.4 rushing yards per play. And the Eagles lead the league in the time of possession battle. They're going up against a Vikings team that can't run the ball. Eagles, great at time of possession. Think about everything I'm saying right now. It's a team that controls the ball, the clock, everything. And the Vikings, who throw the ball a ton, one-dimensional, can't run the ball. Game's in Philly. Carson Wentz is back. He's playing good football. This is going to be another massacre. The Viking season will end in week 5.
Wow.
Interesting. I'm going to take the Vikings.
Why?
Why? I don't know. It's a revenge game. What do you want? It's a classic revenge game. No.
Who doesn't like that?
Maybe this is kind of sticking with my preseason picks where I was really high on the Vikings, and obviously that hasn't kind of come to fruition yet. I still think they're a better team than they've shown. I mean, for their sake, I hope they are. You look at the Philly. And Ricky, I think Ricky's got a really good point. I looked it up at the Pro Football Focus numbers in terms of protecting the passer. I think the Vikings were something like 20th or even lower than that. So that's an issue. And, they have to figure out a way to kind of slow that down. But if you can slow down that Eagles pass rush, their secondary hasn't been very good this year. I thought it was interesting. I think I read this. This is NFL.com. They do like their recap or whatever, like 45 things from whatever week it was. I forget who wrote it, but he said, the Eagles secondary doesn't look capable of keeping up with younger, speedy receiving core. That's not a good recipe for success when you've got Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs coming to town. Those guys both balled out Thursday night. And by the way, Thursday night, that was the last time they played, right? That's a long time ago. That's 10 days of rest. Let me pull this up. This is according to my friend Walter Football. Mike Zimmer in his career, 9-3 against the spread with extra time to prepare. At least that's since 2015. Eagles, this is another one. Love it. Walter Football hooking me up with this trend. This one actually.
Get him on.
I don't really like this, but I'm going to mention it.
Carry you and bring Walter Football
it's this. I like this one because it helps my case. The Eagles are 3-12 against the spread before playing the Giants since December 2010. So not only is this a revenge game, it's a trap game. Give me the Vikings. I'll take the points.
Giants aren't what the Giants used to be, though.
That's all right. They're thinking about it.
Still the
Giants haven't been very good for the last couple of years, and those numbers still aren't very good. So whatever. I don't know. It's just one of those things too where I put it in my computer and it spit out that the Vikings had a decisive edge in this. So
I just don't like when quarterbacks throw the ball a ton, and Kirk Cousins has been doing that. He's been playing well. He's 70% completion percentage, 10 or 11 touchdowns with just 2 picks, but it's just not a recipe for success.
One thing that scares me is that the Eagles secondary, though. I mean, I think it's exploitable.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw that dating back to the Super Bowl. We saw that last week against the Titans. Yeah. I just think, given the problems along Minnesota's offensive line, see, Philly doesn't have to get all that creative to create pressure. I mean, their talent is so deep, and it's that you're able to rotate guys in and out of that line, and that front seven it's so problematic.
What's the over/under on screen passes from the Vikings this week?
Yeah, I mean,
like 12. Like, you might as well just run it. Like, you can't run the football. You got to neutralize the pass rush. Just, I don't know. I mean, it's predictable.
In which case, you're almost better off being last year's version when you have like Jerick McKinnon and.
Well, I think that's what they thought Cook was going to be.
Yeah.
Obviously, the injury hasn't helped him, so it is what it is. We'll see. There might be a look in the over in that one. 44.5 totals at right now. It seems a little low for two teams that have had some issues defensively. So, and also if you're big on the Eagles, you might think a defensive touchdown could be in order as well because Kirk Cousins makes some questionable decisions with the football from time to time. So, all right.
Locks?
Let's get into locks. Andre, why don't you start?
I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Chargers over the Oakland Raiders. I look at the Chargers' schedule recently.
Old habits die hard.
Before I even get into the pick, it stinks for them because they've been playing a lot of West Coast teams. They're playing the NFC West this year, so it's like they don't have much of a home advantage anyway. It doesn't help that they're playing these California teams or short trip from Oakland and a lot of Raiders fans in LA to begin with. So it's going to be a 90-10 crowd, 90% Raiders fans down there. Anyway, I still think the Chargers win. Oakland stinks. They beat the Browns, but they still stunk in the second half. They allowed a ton of points to the Browns in that second half. I don't like that second half adjustments. We've talked about it all season long with the Raiders. They've been outscored a ton in the second half. And Oakland allows 6.8 yards per play. It's the second most. 8.2 yards per pass attempt. That's the fifth most. You're going up against Phillip Rivers, who's playing some of his best football right now. 11 touchdowns, 2 picks. I know the Chargers are 2-2, but they've played some tough opponents in the Chiefs and Rams. Their defensive numbers are inflated by those 2 games. They're going to be fine against the Raiders, who have the 4th worst yards per play differential in football. It's bad.
All right, we just talked about the Giants not being the same team that they were maybe a few years ago. So I'm going to go against them for my lock. I'm going to take the Panthers, 7-point favorites.
This could be a murder.
Coming off a bye. I mean, obviously that gives you the extra rest, but also they're flying pretty high going into that. Cam Newton played well against Cincinnati. They had that win. Since Ron Rivera took over as coach in 2011, Panthers 12-0 straight up and 9-2-1 against the spread in home games in which they're favored by a touchdown or more. So not too prone to the old letdown against an inferior opponent. I look last week, the Giants getting absolutely destroyed by Alvin Kamara, which you could say about a lot of teams. But when you got Christian McCaffrey coming up next on your docket, who I regard as kind of a similar skill set, the ability to beat you on the ground and through the air, I don't think that bodes well for the Giants. So it could be another long day for them.
I like that pick a lot, Ricky Doyle.
For my lock, I will take the San Francisco 49ers, who are only 4.5-point favorites at home against Josh Rosen and the Arizona Cardinals. Josh Rosen has completed 56% of his passes, has a 72.7 passer rating, and still hasn't had to play a road game. San Francisco, they actually looked okay without Jimmy Garoppolo. I thought it was interesting. I was looking at the fact that they've had C.J. Beathard in there for a couple of years now. He's had a lot of time to learn that system, and if you're a Kyle Shanahan believer, I think that speaks to he's at least competent.
I think they're well coached.
Yeah, I agree. So
they outperform their talent.
Yeah, they definitely do. The defense is a little questionable, but again, they can't tackle. Their tackling has been horrendous, which kind of scares me when you're facing a team that has at least a couple of playmakers you get the ball in space to. But I just think you get pressure on Rosen and kind of take that entire thing away. 4.5 doesn't seem like a lot. Also, San Francisco. You want to talk about brutal schedules to start the season? They've played 3 of their 4 games to start the season have been road games at Minnesota, at Kansas City, and at the Chargers to start the year. That's tough.
Well, that Chargers is just a home game.
That's true.
It's like all red in the crowd.
And they come home and they play.
It's so noticeable.
I know, yeah.
Saying this the other day, like if they're playing a team whose primary color is red, it's so much more noticeable too.
Oh, that was like worse than the Chiefs.
Yeah, that was.
What team do you think the Chargers have like the best home advantage against?
The Rams.
I mean, even then, that was a surprise how many people showed up to that game though. It was a good crowd.
Kill football in Los Angeles.
Like
so what team?
Like the Jags.
The Jags. I was gonna say the Jags.
Probably the Jags.
Any team from, like the Bucks.
Tampa Bay. Yeah,
I mean,
Tampa Bay. Yeah.
The Bucks or the Jags. I mean, Dolphins have a history, so.
Say that about like any sport, any of the 4 major sports. Just pick like a Southern Florida team.
I
Dolphins.
You,
yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like the Dodgers tiebreaker game. That entire upper deck
in their defense, they got a lot of other things to do down there.
Yeah,
they
right.
sit on the beach all day.
No.
Well, all I ever hear, all I ever hear when you complain about, complain about sports attendance in California is, oh, the traffic is so bad. Oh,
there's no traffic
that game was at 2 p.m.
There's
or whatever.
no traffic at that time.
No kidding. Have you ever sat in traffic on the whatever the hell those goddamn
listen?
California's the only place with traffic.
You got LeBron James in town. You got the Rams, best team in football. There's no excuse for that. Dodgers are going World Series 1 game away. You Darvish. I mean, you got some good sports there. You should go support them.
You should be ashamed of your city.
Yeah, I'm very ashamed.
Good.
I mean, they'll be there for the Lakers. They support the Lakers.
Yeah, right. Because it's cool to go to the Lakers. Anyway, upsets, Ricky.
I'm gonna cheat a little bit just because. I mean, it's an upset technically.
I'm 100% cheating.
But so I'm thinking the Broncos over the Jets. They're 1 point underdogs. So I feel like
I'm also taking a 1 point dog. So.
Well, listen, the options are a little bit limited.
Yeah,
this
it's
week,
not good this week
in terms of picking underdogs. But I like the Broncos to go on the road and win that game outright. I just like last week. A lot of problems with the Jets going up against the Jaguars, who I mean we've talked about their defense at length. I don't think the Broncos are quite at that level, but they have some of the same strengths, particularly the ability to get after the quarterback, and that's not ideal when you're a rookie trying to deal with the overall lack of talent around you, anyways. So I just think they can get after them, and the Jets are gonna have a hard time scoring.
I like that upset a lot, Ricky Doyle.
Thanks. You like my picks today?
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's so cordial today.
Big game in Texas, Battle of Texas. It happens once every 4 years. Cowboys, Texans. I'm going to take the Cowboys over the Texans. The Cowboys are 3-point underdogs. Texans could be an 0-4 team. They do a terrible job in protecting Deshaun Watson, who's been pressured in 47% of dropbacks, according to the Pro Football Focus. He's been sacked the second most times in terms of the Texans' offensive line has allowed the second most sacks in football after the Bills. And Dallas is the 3rd most sacks. They got a great pass rush. They don't force turnovers, which is weird. Their defense is still really good. They're good at not allowing a lot of yards. They're good at pressuring the quarterback. And, Houston's rush defense is up for a big test. They've put up good numbers, but they've gone up against the Pats, who are 18th in rushing yards per game, Titans 24th, Giants 20th, and Colts 28th. Now they go up against Ezekiel Elliott and the Cowboys, who are number 1 in rushing yards per play. Not game, I'm sorry, rushing yards per play. And I think that's going to cause a lot of problems. Cowboys are going to eat the clock, sack Deshaun Watson. There's going to be a lot of Cowboys fans. The game's in Houston. And I'm getting points. I like it.
I'm also taking a fake upset. I'm taking
that's the way to do it.
I'm taking Detroit. Detroit is a home dog against the Packers. I'll take the Lions here. Packers, 22-0 home shutout against Buffalo. Good for you. A little tougher going on the road in the division. Aaron Rodgers did look better. Moving around the pocket, he looks healthier. That being said, he hates Mike McCarthy. And as a Packers fan, I can relate. Like, Mike McCarthy is a boob. and they're just ruining his career with what they've done in terms of personnel building and just game plan stuff. Maybe Rodgers been a little petulant about it from time to time, but he's Aaron Rodgers. Let him do whatever he wants. Mike McCarthy's getting in the way of that right now. They're not giving the ball to Aaron Jones enough. It's just you add it all up, going on the road. Detroit already has one impressive home win this season against the Patriots. I think they find a way to do it again. This just seems like one of those tough situations for the Packers to go into, so I'll take the Lions here.
So you got sad people in Wisconsin, but they got a great baseball team up in the.
Is that why you're wearing your Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
Yeah, I was very
sweatshirt.
I was very proud of their performance on their tiebreaker game.
When have you been to Milwaukee? Was that when you were driving across the country?
Yeah, flying.
And your laptop stolen?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, 2013. You got a good Arthur Fonzarelli statue in the Riverwalk in Milwaukee. I highly recommend if you're ever down there. Very empty downtown. I don't know, nothing goes on there, but they do have a Fonzie statue there.
Nice. I'd love to get out there I'd love to go see. It just seems like such a cool atmosphere. Not talking about baseball on a football podcast, but go to like a Brewers game where you tailgate and it's just sausage and cheese everywhere you look.
I think they're winning the National League.
I'm going out. Speaking of Milwaukee, I got a bucket list trip I'm already starting to plan. 2020 Ryder Cup is at it's in Wisconsin at Whistling Straits, so I'm going to go out there, try to get a Brewers game while I'm out there, and maybe a Packers game. You never know. Wow. So that is a hell of a week.
Lambeau Field.
And I might never come back because Wisconsin seems much more my speed. So we'll see.
Yeah. You strike me as a Wisconsin guy.
That's kind of insulting, I think.
No.
You're fat like cheese. You do really well around a bunch of people who wear cheese on their head. Thank you.
I think I might like it too. The more you mention it, I'm like, doesn't
sound
so
bad.
bad.
Series picks since this is a betting show.
I like the Brewers to win the National League, and I will take the Astros in the American League. It's either the Astros or the Indians for me.
Yeah, I've been on the Indians all year, so I'm sticking with the Indians. Indians to win it. Indians over Brewers.
Wow. So we're all going Brewers.
We're all on the Brewers, huh?
I'm going Brewers, and I'm going to go with the Red Sox.
And I think a lot of the Brewers is because I'm sick of the other teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I'm sick of the Dodgers, sick of the Cubs.
I say Brewers over Red Sox.
Oh, that would be an awesome World Series. I can get down with that. That'd be cool.
That'd be good, yeah.
Aesthetically
I
pleasing.
think people are underselling the Red Sox great performance against the Orioles 19 times. And they beat them down, 17 times out of 19?
It's no greater indication of how good a team is than beating the Orioles 17 out of 19 times. All right, we have gotten to the portion of our program where we talk about baseball, so we should probably get the hell out of here.
It's a betting show.
I know, I agree. We should have more betting content on NESN.com. Yeah. That's my opinion, but I don't make those decisions.
Hockey season starts this week. Early Stanley Cup picks.
Bruins 11-1, not a good pick. That's on.
I haven't even.
Little preview of the NESN.com Bruins podcast.
Jets
later,
maybe.
So.
Winnipeg
Jets like 8-1. That's a good pick. So.
How do you know all this off the top of your head?
I've been doing Bruins preview stuff all day.
Because you're doing the Bruins betting. Excellent.
See, all right. It speaks to the versatility around here.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point. If
pat ourselves on the back.
Made me look pretty good right there. Yeah, exactly. All right, we're out of here. It's been the Spread NESN.com Football Picks podcast. We'll be back again next week to do the same old thing. Okay. So we'll leave on. Goodbye.
What about the MLS Cup?
The Dynamo?
See you later.